Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to our live webinar at the 22nd Social Entrepreneurship for Innovation in Health course. We'll take a brief pause so that everybody can join the session. And if you're able to see us and your peers are not able to do so, I request you to drop a comment in the discussion forum requesting everyone to refresh their browsers. And also, if you're watching us live, don't forget to take the short survey that you find below the screen that asks you, are you watching live? Please click yes to get your extra credit points. The survey will not appear if you're watching a recorded session. Okay, let's get started and welcome back to our live webinar once again. Today, we will be exploring different aspects of co-creation with our guest expert, which is also the theme that runs through this week's module. A quick reminder before we begin. As you know from the course overview, Module 4 and 5 are about co-creation that focuses on real-world co-creation proposals led by health innovators. You have an assignment submission this week. Please do make it a priority so that you can get valuable feedback from your facilitators and peers. And also, thank you very much to those who made an early submission. Please don't forget to review your peers' work and share your comments and thoughts with them. That's part of a collaborative learning. And now, please join me to welcome Muthi to this session, who holds a vision to shift water from being a scarce resource to being a well-managed system that ensures reliable access for all. Welcome to the session, Muthi. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing over there?
Thank you. Muthi, before we start, please allow me to take a moment to read out a brief introduction for you.
Okay.
Muthi is a Malawian civil engineer turned social entrepreneur who is redefining how groundwater is managed and sustained in Malawi. He's an MBA degree holder from Harvard University. Muthi's journeys has spanned across diverse fields, from theatre for development to leadership programs, before he founded Baseflow in 2017, which is a social enterprise committed to ensuring that no well runs dry. Through Baseflow, Muthi combines data, technology, and community-led governance to protect vital water resources for rural communities. In 2023, he was recognized as an Ashoka Fellow for his pioneering work in water and sanitation innovation. I request everyone to drop your question for Muthi in the discussion forum, and we'll cover as many as we can during a span of an hour. So Muthi, we are honored and privileged to have you with us today. And I thought, though I briefly introduced you, but let's start conversation with your professional journey, with glimpses of your professional journey. So can you give us glimpses of your professional journey and what led you to Baseflow? And could you also tell us what is Baseflow all about?
Thank you. Actually, you did an excellent job of introducing me. I don't know if I can add anything more to it. But anyway, welcome everyone. As mentioned, my name is Muthi. I think my professional journey, as I would say it started a long time ago when I was a teenager. Because I think when I was, when my father used to work for a government department responsible for water. So he used to take me along with him to his department. So I would see, engineers carrying pipes, having conversations about designs. And I think the seed of that interest was planted then, only that I didn't notice it at the time. And fast forward some 15, 20 years later, I was working for an international organization doing work in water. And I had a nice job, a nice cushy job. I could have done that job for the rest of my life. But the thing that I noticed, one of the aspects of my job with that international organization was that I was looking at data. So I would look at a lot of data to do with water. And one piece of data that I came across was data showing the water table level in a specific part of my country. So this is the groundwater, that is water that's under the ground. So we have wells or boreholes that basically monitor how the water table is doing. When it rains, it rises. When it's drought, it drops down. And when I saw this graph, it was showing that over a period of 10, 15 years, the water table had been dropping for about 1 meter a year, which was quite substantial to me. And it really concerned me because there were lots of organizations drilling wells in that particular area. So so I decided to be an advocate, and I went to a meeting which was funded by DFID, now FCDO now, and my organization was doing a presentation. So I did a presentation for my organization, and I did a very naughty thing. I slipped in the graph in my presentation. And I said, I know this is not part of the format of the presentation, but I need to show you this graph. And I said, it's very clear something is happening to our groundwater. I don't know what it is, but I think we need to take this seriously. And the response was basically people saying, fascinating. That's really fascinating. We'll take that into consideration. And nothing happened. And people continued drilling in the area where the water table was going down. So this was just one location. So I started to ask myself, is this a problem across the country? So this became something, so this became something that alarmed me. And what alarmed me was not that water seemed to be running out. What alarmed me was the lack of alarm. So because of this, I decided this is something I want to dedicate the rest of my life to addressing. And that's how I started Baseflow, to really understand what's happening with our water table, and then trying to find ways of working with government, private sector, communities to see how can we address this problem in a sustainable way. So so that's basically my background. So along the way, there are quite a few things that we've been able to do, and I know this session is around co-creation. So rather than listening to me the whole time, I have a very short video. It's a 4-minute video, which gives an example of some work that we're doing in Malawi. This work is something I've just started doing this year, and it's a short video. It's about 4 minutes, showing an example of how we're doing some co-creation work with a private company and communities. So let me just take a second to just share the video now. So this is so I think we should go. So this video is also on YouTube, but if you want to see it afterwards.
Sure.
Mungu wa Baseflow atabwera kuno anatiunikira ndipo anayamba kutipangira mijigo yathu yapamwamba. Atatipangira mijigo yathu yapamwamba bola panopa mvula ikagwa tikumwa madzi abwino. Anayipanga chigazo chonena kuti mijigo yathu yokwera iyi ayike pa insurance. Komano chinativutirapo atabwera tiza insurance kuti tipanga motani kuti ifeyo anthu akumuzi tingachifikire motani chinthu chimene chipoganza kuti insurance imafuna ndalama.
This is a first of its kind partnership. We've not done anything like this with any construction company or NGO. Baseflow had consulted us seeking insurance for the boreholes they just built. In the first place, we were reluctant because of the risk that comes with insuring boreholes and the trend that has been there in as far as cyclones and floods are concerned in the country. But as we understood how they've elevated the projects, the boreholes basically 1 meter above ground, and the structures, the cement and the engineering that has gone into these projects, after we surveyed, we were more than happy to partner with them. We also understood that they were doing this because they wanted to better the life of the community. And us as Nico General, we are always open to such an opportunity to help the community, to give back in any way that we can. And our sister company, in the same spirit, has partnered with Baseflow, Nico Asset. So Baseflow set aside some funds that they've invested with Nico Asset, the interest from which will be used now to pay us for the premiums. So this also puts not only the sustainability part to the boreholes, but to the partnership that we have to make sure that every year there's no gap where these boreholes are not covered. The cover that we give them covers for any accidental damage. So our main concern was to cover flood, earthquakes, cyclones, and any malicious damage that may befall the boreholes that they built. So basically they are covered, their shortfalls or excesses are minimal, making it possible for them to claim for any damage as low as can be. So we've also stressed that the insurance that we've put in place doesn't take away the responsibility that they have to take care of the boreholes. They have to maintain them, not to abuse the insurance that we've put in place.
ife anthu osangalala ndi mmene chinthu chichatifikira ndi mmenenso zinthu zizabwerera chifukwa kwathu kuno tingane kuti chinthu chinkoyamba kuchilandira chinthu ngati chimenechi zimene anatipangira ifenso timayamikira fa kuzapezeka kuti ineyo ananga amene akubwera kumbuyo kungakhale anawo azamwa madzi mpaka na kalekale.
Yeah, hope that was our video, which I think was very ideal for this particular session because you have a private sector company, you've got a community member. There's one stakeholder who didn't make it in the video because it was going to be too long, and that's a government stakeholder as well. And I think as we go into the presentation, as we go through this session, I can share a bit more about the government perspective on what we were doing. But what you saw in terms of the design, the design of the raised hand pump, we came up with an idea, we tested it, got community feedback, reworked it, brought in the government, came up with the idea of insurance, brought in a private sector company, had conversation with the communities. So it was a long 2-year process of doing that to come to where we are now, but which we can talk about a bit more in terms of what were some of the missteps and bottlenecks we encountered as we went along the way.
Correct, correct. I love that the person from the insurance company saying that we are not doing drilling because otherwise probably people may think that you are creating well, but you're doing far more than that. You're looking at data, you're looking at what will be sustainable in creating access to water, and water has a very important relationship with life and health, even if it is not direct. So okay, thank you. Thank you,
if I could just quickly add to that, that's a really important point because a lot of whenever I try to explain to people what we do, very often, yes, people think, oh, you drill wells. It's like it's a bit more than that because we're also concerned that are we sure that what we've installed will remain for the long term? Do we know that for a fact? So in these areas where they have flooding, we said, okay, how do we protect those? So it's like, if another major flooding comes, how do we protect that? So we're trying to think further down the line and trying to find partners that we can work with to fill gaps along that chain as we're thinking. So drilling is one aspect, but it's far more than that. So I just wanted to echo that point. It sounds like you work for me. Yeah.
Great. Now comes the very important aspects of co-creation that I'm going to delve into. This week, our course module talks about co-creation, and this week's focus is on shared value, which is a concept that talks about connecting business growth to social impact. So Baseflow is a social enterprise, and it aims to create both social and economic value. So what are your insights about shared value when you are co-creating solutions with stakeholders?
Yeah, I think the one thing that has taken me a long time to learn when I was a very arrogant young civil engineer coming into the space thinking I had all the solutions, the one thing that I've come to accept and understand that it is very important that whatever you bring into the space, you need to design, whether it's a technology or a business model, you need to design it for the people who actually use it. Because one of the things that we have evolved over time to realize is that the problems of the future, well, not even the problems of the future, modern day problems cannot just be solved by one entity. you need to bring in several stakeholders into this particular space. The example I've given of the insurance company, you bring them in. But then the question for an insurance company is, okay, this is risky for me. I might, if I insure this, I might not get the money. How are the communities going to pay? So we had to think about that and say, okay, what do we design for them? And this is where we came up with an endowment fund, so that that money is set aside to actually produce the return from which will pay for the premiums for the communities. And this is important for the community because we realize that this is a community that has gone through one flooding after another. So it is actually, as far as I'm concerned, it would be an injustice to ask them to pay for insurance, but they need insurance. So we said, okay, what can we do that takes into account their financial reality, takes into account the commercial profit motive of this particular company? And that's when we set up the endowment fund. And we tried to look for funding, philanthropic funding, to enable that to happen. So we were essentially a market facilitator in that. But throughout that process, our position was, how do we design for the stakeholders that we're working with? Because for us, our interest is to ensure sustainable water supply. Now, the communities want that, but they don't have the money to do it. Thankfully, this insurance company has a corporate social responsibility agenda, so it did fit within that, but they still had to match it with a profit motive. So we had to design an endowment fund that would, the interest from which would pay for that. So I think from my experience, and again, the arrogance I had when I was young was that I would come up with an idea and say, people will want to do this. It's without question, it's a brilliant idea. People just throw themselves to want to support without really considering the stakeholders' perspectives, their interests, their bottlenecks, and then trying to see how I can factor that into the design. So I think for me, the one insight I can share is design for your stakeholders, design for them so that it is easy for them to actually engage and they see a benefit that meets their interests as well. So, and as I mentioned, one of the things I said I would speak to is the government. The government stakeholder was not included because it was going to be a long documentary. We wanted to keep it under 4 minutes. But one of the things the government actually said, what they loved about the idea was that it removed a financial burden on their budgets. And one of the things they started doing, which was not a design of the endowment fund, was that now they started coming up with the ideas for how could they use the interest to fund other things. If for example, that year it's very clear there's projected to be no flooding, could that money be used for preventative maintenance contracts with other contractors? So all of a sudden, having that there unlocked government creativity, and it relieved a burden that the government stakeholder had. So yes, in summary, design for your partners as well. Yes, you might have a common goal, but consider their bottlenecks, consider their interests.
Lovely. Yeah. I think that's one of the best ways you could have talked about shared value, where everybody saw interest directly. Nobody's benefiting, but everybody's benefiting, everybody's winning. So very well described. I already have a question from one of our live audience, Yaditya Mala from Indonesia, and Yaditya is asking, what has been your biggest challenge in applying co-creation approach, and how have you overcome it to achieve shared value, both for business and community?
I will start with the community. I was hoping the audience will give me light touch questions, give me tough ones. Okay, I'll start with the community because with the community, actually, let me give one example. This one example touches both community and business. A few years ago, we came up with a project idea, not while I was with Baseflow, when it was with another organization. And the problem we're trying to solve was we wanted people to have better toilets. So not your basic toilets that collapse with rain, but really, with bricks and mortar toilets. So the major bottleneck to households was they don't have the money. So we went to a microfinance institution and we said, could you provide or create a product for people to borrow to buy toilets? So this company said yes, but they would need a guarantee. So the organization I worked for provided a guarantee. So the idea was any loan that was issued, it basically was matched against that guarantee. So I think we put in a guarantee of $10,000 as a starting point. So they would lend out money to the value of $10,000. If they reached that ceiling, we would have to top up. That was the design.
Hmm.
What happened was that it turned out that the community beneficiaries somehow found out about the guarantee, right? And because they found out about the guarantee, some of the community or some of the households that were beneficiaries or that actually got the loans, they were loan customers, stopped repaying the loan.
Oh.
And the reason why they stopped repaying the loan is because, and this is really important when it comes to co-creation, you need to understand what is the perception of the partners you're bringing into the space about you as the facilitator. Because at that time I was working for a non-profit. The perception in my country of a non-profit is if a non-profit brings something in, it's free. That's the perception. So when they heard that an NGO had put a guarantee, the community said, we don't have to pay it back. It's an NGO money. It was funded from EU. So you see, this is one of the challenges this is a challenge I've seen again and again, and I've got so many examples. But the point here is that you need to really understand what are the perceptions your stakeholders or partners have of you. So if you're working in Malawi, if you are an NGO or a social enterprise like I am, and you're going to the community, there's already a power imbalance, and there are already expectations by virtue of you being a social enterprise. Because the history is when NGOs come, they give us free stuff. So you need to be very wary of that. And this is something I've encountered again and again. Let me give one last example just to emphasize this point. Again, we were doing a project a long time ago with the government, where again, issues with toilets are a big issue in my country. So it was another toilet project. And the idea was that we wanted to encourage people to buy better toilets. So we invested in promotion, marketing, branding, that kind of thing. Now, our partner was government. So government was doing the implementation. After several months of implementation, we did not see any movement. There was no uptake. There was nothing. So we called a meeting and we're trying to decipher what is the problem. And then in the middle of the meeting, I noticed something. And then I posed a question to the people in the room. I asked the government stakeholders, forget the project. I want to ask a fundamental question. Do you fundamentally believe that the poor should pay for social services? That was my question. Forget the project. Do you honestly believe that the poor should pay for social services? Out of 10 people that were there from the government, 9 said, no, we don't believe the poor should pay for social services. That was the problem. They were implementing a product or a project they did not fundamentally believe in. And because they did not believe in it, they could not invest or unlock the creativity to find ways of navigating the problems that were there. So that is a major problem I've encountered again and again. The mental models your stakeholders have about you and the project or product you're bringing to them.
You already answered something that a lot of our participants were wondering, that, why do people have this perception that NGOs already get donations and grants? Then why do they charge? Why do the community has to pay for it? But of course, it's their share, of investing in the solution, like maintaining. In your case, it's maintenance. You give them a product that needs maintenance. So, of course, they will have to commit to that. Great. Thank you, Muthi, for bringing that example. Muthi, now I'm going to ask you a very fundamental question. Is like, how do you form effective collaboration, and what is the role of trust and shared value in forming effective collaboration across sectors?
Yeah. What is the role? What is the role of trust? I think for me, when we talk about trust, trust, I think, takes many forms. My experience about trust is a lot of the time the people we're working with, again, this really goes back to the perception, because trust is established based on the perception that people have of you. And and not just perception, but also assumptions that people have of you, because that really impacts the way people engage with you. Like, for example, when I do, for example, collaborations with the government, when I'm collaborating with the government, and I've been collaborating with government since 2017, I can tell you that it's been in the last 2 years that I've actually made movement, like substantial movement. And a lot of that is because, again, the government has a perception that NGOs or nonprofits or social enterprises come and they use us for their activities. That's a perception. Now, because those who live in Africa will know that the government, or like the government in my country, will simply accept what project you bring. Even if they don't agree with, they'll simply accept it, because it's something that's coming in. So the thing I didn't notice or recognize was that when I was coming in with the idea that I came in with, believing it was the best idea ever, better than sliced bread, they simply accepted it. And I thought their acceptance of the project was trust. It wasn't. They simply accepted because that's what they do. They're actually no. One of the things I tell people when they come to Malawi, when they want to engage the government, I always say, find out who else the government is talking to, because they could be talking to so many people and saying yes to everybody. So it's important to find out who else is the government talking to. So a lot of the time we make the mistake that if they accept, then that's trust. It was not. There was a lot of things, like, for example, them not telling me that actually there was another partner that they already said yes to that was doing the very same thing that I was doing, and they were not connecting us so that we coordinate together. They were keeping us separate. You find that they would perpetually ask for more trainings upon trainings, and then later on we found out someone had already trained them before, but they didn't tell us. So you find a lot of this. So at the time we thought, wow, we're engaging with the government, they trust us. But it wasn't trust, because for them, the experience of organizations that they come, they do their thing, and they go. So the government was like, let us get what we can, and then they go. And then another NGO will come and do the same thing. So once I noticed this was the case, the reason why things have changed, particularly in the last 2 or 3 years, is because I sat in a room with them and I simply asked them one simple question. What's your pain point? What are you struggling with that you need my help on? And there was I always remember, there was a very awkward moment of silence, because they were like, okay. It's like, no, I really want to know. I'm here to listen. Let me know what is it that is your challenge. And then we had a very, very, very productive and meaningful conversation. And then it turned out there were certain aspects of my work they valued. They just didn't know they could co-create with me. Because again, the perception that NGOs bring something for us to do, we are not seen as co-creators in the process. So this was an opportunity for me to say, oh, no, I want to co-create with you. Do you want, let's sit down. I want to design what you can realistically do. I'm telling you, in the last 2 years, real trust stepped in. So my experience is, don't make the mistake of thinking simply because government or a stakeholder accepts that they trust. Trust is a completely different thing from acceptance. And in my experience, what has happened is that once trust came in, a lot of the things I wanted to do started moving slowly. I don't want to emphasize that all of a sudden I'm achieving everything. They're moving slowly, but there's movement, which honestly in the first 3 or 4 years I struggled with. So they started to see me more as a partner and not just as a arm's length stakeholder. So that's what I would say, particularly when it comes to working with government. They need to know that you'll stick around for the long term. Yeah.
I like the way you explain that, trust can be really misinterpreted, that when you think that somebody's trusting you, it could really be a stereotype where they're just accepting and it means something else. Great. Okay. I have another question, which is very similar to what I was asking, which is like, how do you create effective collaboration? But I really want to ask you, what does true collaboration look like when you are working with different stakeholders with different priorities? Like you already spoke about government. You spoke about government will accept whatever you bring to them. But then you have funders, when you have communities, and all of them have different priorities. So what
Mm.
will a true collaboration for you look like in that scenario?
Mm. I've spoken about government. I can give several examples for each stakeholder, but I think let me focus on funder.
Mm.
Because I think as much as we like to dance around this fact, he who has the money has the power. It's
Mhm.
really that simple. And I think I've had quite a few funders, and I've had different types of funders. I am really happy to say I have funders like, for example, Ashoka, who genuinely want to invest in me and my idea and providing the support for my idea. There's so many other funders. I can give maybe just two or three: Seagull Family Foundation, Shockwave Foundation. Yes, there is a foundation called the Crap Foundation. It actually exists. And also local funders like Troca here in Malawi. So there are funders that actually genuinely want to invest in the vision that I have and the vision that I formulated jointly with government.
Mhm.
But I have had the experience of being with funders who I would call are hostile. And I think this is very personal to me because there was one funder whom I thought we had a shared interest and that we both wanted to improve water resources in Malawi. I thought we had the same agenda. But it turned out as time went, it was very clear this particular individual, a specific individual from a funder, basically needed a token black guy. He simply wanted to check a box to say,
Ah.
I have a black guy from Malawi who's helping me with implementing. That was it.
Mhm.
It was it because whenever there were times when we'd sit down and try to co-create, they would ask, and this is something people do. You need to don't do this, where you
Yeah.
say, "Oh, we consulted our partner," and I give you ideas, but then you don't take them on board. And I don't expect you to take on board everything, but there should be at least a shift where it's very clear that this particular piece has been influenced through the consultation. And this particular funder would consult, but that's all. It never influenced the design of how things were going. And as a result, the way we were engaging, specifically with government, was very bad. The relationship with government was so bad because this particular funder did not want to take into consideration my understanding and my knowledge of the local context. And it turned out that it was very clear they were not interested in my view. They simply wanted to tick a box and say, I have a black guy from Malawi, because I'm supposed to have a black guy from Malawi. So that's what it was. So this is something that I've encountered. And one of the things and I've done this a lot more now, the only choice I had in that situation was to find other funders who I had a shared value with in terms of the things that I wanted to do. Funders who believed in my vision. Some of those funders I've mentioned by name. And others, and there are many others. These are just ones who are very recent because I deal with them every day. But I've had funders in the past who are very hostile, and it's because it was very clear as we're implementing, their interests were not the same as mine, and the same as the government. So the only way out of that was to find other funders, which is what I did, which was not easy,
It's not
but
easy.
it was necessary. It's not easy. I had a lot of difficult conversations. I had conversations with my board, trying to figure out how we navigate it. But it was necessary if we were to address the problem I talked about, which is the dropping water table. Because we were not doing we were doing very little to address that problem specifically, and I wanted to zone in on that. Yeah. So
I do have a
I'll give that example of funder. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because you're talking about a funder, I do have some live question from the participants, but just because you spoke about this tricky situation where you had this issue with the funder, I want to bring up one of my questions that I had for planned for later is what do you do when you are often struggling with partnerships because of power imbalance? Then because here funder is just one of the stakeholders, then how do you kind of build trust and maintain equity in a partnership, especially for the communities, the marginalized stakeholders?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the community one is a very important one. I think with funders, like I said, I've had a couple of experiences that were negative, but I'm noticing a shift, a significant shift where different foundations, especially I've noticed this from foundations, not your traditional large-scale funders. There's a willingness to listen. So I think there's a willingness to shift the power in terms of what should be done with resources that come in. With communities, the relationship between me as a social entrepreneur and a funder, now, of course, that is equalizing, but normally it's I look up to them for money, right? Because like I said, where there's money, there's power. With the communities, particularly in the Malawian context, you are the one with power. You, the social entrepreneur. And it is really important that you conduct a power analysis, particularly when it comes to dealing with the communities that you're dealing with. In the Malawian context, I want to give you a practical example. In the Malawian context, there was one community I worked with where we were doing some fish farming and irrigation work and stuff like that. I met this community and I asked them a question. I said to them, what do you think I want for you? And the community says, oh, you want to empower us, you want to do this. They said the usual stuff. And I said, I look forward to the day when I come to visit you and you say, what are you doing here? We don't need you here. We are empowered. We don't need base flow. I said, for me, that is what I want to see one day. I was assuming that that's what they wanted as well. I wish I could give all the examples that to prove my point. But basically, as we worked with this community over 2 years, it was very clear they didn't want us to leave. They did all kinds of things to sabotage the project so that we stayed. And the reason is because, again, because especially nonprofits, we've created a dependency on ourselves. We're social enterprises, nonprofits, we've, as a sector, created a dependency on ourselves. And that is the power imbalance. In Malawi, you find an old man who come up to me and say, you are my parent. I'm like, my goodness, you're 2 times older than me. How can you say I'm your parent? But the concept in people's heads, again, I always go back to mental models, is that to them, because I come, oh my goodness, because I am coming from the city, I'm well dressed, I've bathed, I'm in my 4x4, I have power. And the moment I come into a room, there's an eddy, almost an electromagnetic field that shifts because I'm in the room. So with communities, it's a different type of power imbalance compared to with funders. And what I can say is that you need the community. The lady who was in the video, she comes from a community that we've been working with now for 5 years. It's taken 5 years to break that spirit. And by breaking that spirit, this dependency, because, oh man, it wasn't this lady in the video, but there was a chief from the community who asked us a very interesting question. He said, wait a minute, if you set up this endowment fund for this insurance, what are you as Baseflow doing then? And I said, we are merely facilitators. It's you, government, and the private company. You will govern this structure. We'll merely backstop that process. I'm telling you, they said, honestly, there are very few organizations that we've worked with who think like that. You're the let me rephrase what he said. We are the first organization that's trying to put ourselves out of work. So like we wanted to build their capacity so that the system can function on its own. All we're coming in is with the technical support and the financing to get the system running. So the moment these people understood, the community partners understood that actually we are genuinely serious about building your capacity, that's when they will tell us about their challenges. They'll tell us about, okay, what about we try this, not that, because they realize that actually they want to help us. But in the previous community I talked about, we assumed they wanted to be helped when actually they wanted us to stay. And it's a regret that I have that I didn't pick up on that with that last community, but it's one that we've picked up on with the subsequent communities we've worked with. So the power imbalance sometimes is that you are the one that has power, and you have to actively let go of it. Can I just give a practical example, a simple one, very quick?
Yes.
It's little things. I know, we like, I'm an engineer. We like tools, we like frameworks, we like systems. Sometimes it's a simple thing as when you come into a room and you're meeting the community, what they like to do, they put chairs up front so that they are like in a classroom setup. So you are this side and you are in front of them like the teacher or the person who has power. What we do, the moment we notice that, we break that by creating a circle. And we don't sit on one side, we mix within the community. And we don't come up with solutions. We ask them, what do you think? How should we do that? That might be a bit challenging. We don't have the resources. This is the budget we have. What do you think we can do within it? That might be difficult. And doing that and getting them used to, you have agency in this process. So it's little things like that, but you have to do it all the time. Yeah. It's exhausting, yes, but you have to do it all the time.
I loved it that you mentioned that it has agency to do like that. And unless the community assumes the agency, you will not be able to move the needle for good, for sustainable reasons. Yeah. Thank you.
Agency is a muscle. You have to exercise
it. Yeah. It's a must. I completely agree. Muthi, I have a very interesting question from one of our live audience, Pastapanos. And Pastapanos is asking, how do you balance innovation within your organization while navigating established government and donor system that may be slower to adapt?
Oh, how do I... sorry, I didn't catch that. How do I balance innovation with fixed rules?
How do you balance innovation within your organization while navigating with established systems? I would say established systems like government and donors. They have established systems.
Yes. Okay. My goodness, you're throwing hard questions at me. Okay. I think, okay. I would like to just give an example of something that speaks to this particular question, and that's technology. I, like the next person, love tech. I love tech. I love where we're going with it, and I love what it can do. One of the things I've noticed, and again, I have stepped on many landmines because of this, is that you come up with a technology and you assume that this is such a cool technology, who would not want it, right? And this is something I've seen happen again and again. And sometimes, I'll give a practical example of a technology that people are promoting right now in my country. The hand pump you saw, where people are pumping for water, some organizations are looking at putting a sensor on that pump so that it can transmit information when it's not working. Cool idea. I'm not denying it's an excellent idea. But generally they're having a lot of struggles with it, because even if it sends the message to say this isn't working, so a government officer can come, the problem is not that the government officer doesn't know how to communicate with the community. The problem is the government officer doesn't have the money to get on a motorbike and go to that community. That is the problem. So you find I've been in forums where I've been very unpopular, where I've said, listen, I love technology, I love the sensors, but I think sometimes you're creating a solution for a future problem. Because the problem that we have, particularly with maintenance in Malawi specifically, it's a finance problem, not a technological one. And and I want to use this in response to the question, because here's an innovation
Mhm.
That is great. It's cool. But it doesn't match the local reality of what the government or the communities are struggling with. So, and again, this goes back to what I said earlier. Design for the people who will use it.
Yeah.
So if you're coming in with the technology, oh my goodness, I'll not talk about this because of time. Please go online and Google Play Pump. Play, as in PLAY, pump. This is an example of a technology that everyone was excited about. It got awards. Nelson Mandela, may he rest in peace, even said, this is a great technology. Everyone should use it. Now it's nowhere to be seen. Again, it was an excellent technology, which everyone was excited about, but it didn't meet the needs of the country where it was implemented. Now you can't find it anywhere. So when it comes to innovation, design for the people who use the innovation. Don't engineers. Sorry, let me just make this last point. As engineers, we have this bias. I have it as well. I'm not perfect. I fall into it on occasion. We believe that if we build it, they will come. If I bring a technology, if I bring a product, the partners I want to work with will see the value and say, yes, let's do it. No, human beings don't function like that. So be careful of the assumption that, oh, simply because it's an innovation, therefore it will be adopted. No, you need to design for the people that you're working with.
I completely agree. Design for the people you're working with. And I also, in one of my previous conversation with you, I love the fact that you said when you're working in an ecosystem with lots of stakeholders, choose who should lead it. So it's not that naturally it is you who is leading. In your case, you always said that government is leading the initiative, and you look at yourself at base floor as the enabler. So great. Of course, we are moving very fast to the end of the session, but I do have like lots of questions for you, but I'm going to now kind of focus on the ones which will give us the crux of what we want to know from you is your experience in building great partnerships. So one of the questions that I have from Armand Panya from UK is, how do you determine or choose which organizations or companies are the right fit for co-creation? And what are your guiding principles or criterias for assessing alignment before you engage with any partnership?
Okay, I think for this one, it would be particularly important. I'll give actually the video I shared with you. The private sector company, actually, let me start like this. Usually, when we're looking for partners, there's no standard process that I have. Let me put that out there. It's not that I have a checklist of things that I need to look at. I'll put that out there. For this particular project, we actually went to about 3 insurance companies in my country. We explained to them what we wanted. 2 of them wouldn't return our emails. I actually went physically to one of their offices, one of the company's offices, and had a meeting. Tried to say, okay, can I explain it? Maybe it's not clear. Because I believe in face-to-face meetings. I feel a lot of things get lost in translations via email. So I believe in face-to-face. Even like this, for me, it's good because you can get to see the person and what they think, their facial expressions and what they're thinking. So even though I went to these other insurance companies, they said no, we don't have an appetite for this risk. And then when we went to Nico, when we explained the model, the thing we didn't realize was that actually they did have a corporate social responsibility agenda. They actually had some, I think you call them ESG targets, which as somebody, I have my own indicators of what I track, but they're not necessarily ESG. So meeting a private sector company, they were like, when we explained it to them, and then we explained the sustainability aspect of an endowment fund, they said, actually, this ticks a lot of our ESG targets. We've been trying to look for projects that are unique and innovative that we can actually support. And then I actually had a meeting with the company that's managing the endowment fund, and they even offered to, how much is this in Malawi Kwati? They offered to make a contribution of about $3,000 to the endowment fund as their contribution, because they said, this actually ticks a lot of boxes for us. I was not aware of this. I was not aware that corporate companies now have to actively address ESG targets. It's a completely new world for me.
Yeah.
So, and as a result of that experience, I'm actually having a meeting tomorrow with an ESG director of one of the banks, because I want to learn that landscape and then see how we can position ourselves for that opportunity. Because it's very clear that ESG is something that we can tap into. So particularly with private companies, they're shifting from corporate social responsibility to ESG, which very clearly is aligning with a lot of what we want to do as an organization. So we want to sort of tap into that space. So I think that's what I would say. ESG is something that aligns with our values. Same thing with funders. The funders I have, they align with our values. We have 5 values. So we actually look at those values, look at theirs and see, is there alignment? Who have they funded in the past? We actually talk to people they funded in the past to say, what type of funder are they? Are they, iterative, or are they prescriptive? So we do our own due diligence on funders in the same way they do due diligence on us.
Interesting.
so that we get a sense of who they are. So that is one thing we do. That we've done on a couple of occasions. I wouldn't say it's systematic, like, we have a checklist, but we just have conversations with people to get a sense of what their experience is. Could be more systematized. I'll probably admit to that. But other than that, it's the principle of it. Are these the right people? So talk to other people who have that experience.
Okay, great. So I think fundamentally alignment with your values is number one, and then also making sure that you do your own due diligence, formally, informally, whichever way, to make sure that you know that you're aligned with the right partner. I have another very interesting question, which is about, again, challenges of co-creation, and comes from live audience. Amos Akwachi is from Nigeria, and also Katerina Francisca, and they're asking, how do you consider serious challenges what do you consider as serious challenges in co-creation tasks?
Oh, hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, fine. Sorry, my network I think is a bit slow. No, thank you. What is a serious co-creation challenge? I think one of the most serious co-creation challenges, I've sort of hinted on it as I've gone, is don't assume the interest of the other stakeholder. Don't make assumptions about don't make the mistake of going to them and say, here's a product, here's a project, it will do this for you. Let them find the hook that makes sense for them. And of course, it's important that you do your research to understand what could be a hook for them. But at the end of the day, don't go into a space of co-creation assuming that everyone thinks like you, or everyone has the same interest, or everyone wants the same thing. Some people have their own self-interest. It may not align with yours. This is something important. Just because someone's self-interest doesn't align with what you want to achieve doesn't mean they can't be a valuable partner. Right? Because it might not be that their goal is water supply, but it might be that they're, just off the top of my head, maybe their issue is supplying spare parts, right? Or it could be some other thing. But because I think a lot of the time we think, oh, they must also want water. But it's like, well, but actually it could also be that it may not be that they want water, but they are valuable at a certain part of your model to make it work. So, so don't assume that they want the same things that you do. And simply because maybe they might not have the same goal in terms of what you want, that they might not be valuable. They may be valuable maybe in a certain piece of your model. I have a friend, we talk about this all the time. This is something I've been working on for a long time. Your job is not to make people care. It's because I think a lot of the times as nonprofits and social enterprises, we want people to care.
Mhm.
But sometimes that is not incentive enough. You need to find what is the incentive to at least get them in the door. And then you can take them on a journey to caring for the thing that you care about. Find the hook for them, and then they might journey with you. Yeah. So I think don't make assumptions about their interests.
Yeah. So that's one of the, I think, what you could consider a serious challenge is having a pre-notion about a partner or about a system. Yeah. Very, very important. In interest
And
of
I could
time,
sorry.
we just like
Yeah, go ahead.
we just have like I have so many questions. I don't even know which one to prioritize, but I would just say that there are some very important questions that I definitely want you to answer before we wrap up. So I would like to bring one more question, which is very important for us to understand from you, is that as we look ahead, how do you see models like base flow evolve? And what do you think is the next decade of collaborative social innovation looking like in Africa?
I think as an organization, we still see ourselves doing the work that we're doing. And this is really looking at putting the government in front and us trying to help them do what they need to do, because they are the stakeholder that has the legal mandate to manage the water resources in Malawi. So that is something we still see ourselves doing into the foreseeable future. And just to let people know, I mean, one of the things that we're actually going to start doing from next year, we're not putting our logo on any community assets. We'll put government. And that is deliberate, because it's that perception people have. So this is something that we're doing as an organization. So we still see ourselves trying to help the government so that they can manage the water resources better. So that's what we intend to do. In terms of Africa, that's a mixed bag. I mean, a kind of wait and see position, because especially with the shift in terms of USAID funding on the continent and what that has done, one of the things that it has done that some people are noticing, is that now the local players that were overshadowed with USAID funding are slowly stepping up. So, and this is through, through support from entities like Ashoka. The other entities like SIGO has some platforms. The Mulago has some platforms. There's so many platforms where local agents, local social enterprises are stepping up and are being recognized that actually this is more sustainable than that huge USAID funded program. Not to say that USAID was bad. There are lots of things about it that could have been done better. So I'm in a wait and see space, but I can see social entrepreneurs are going to be really important to the advancement of Africa. The charitable model, I think, is over. The era of the charitable model is over.
I think it's over world over, the charitable model. It is moving towards sustainability. And I think the example of an endowment fund, which can pay for needs of water, maintenance of the water points, is an excellent example of what an innovation can look like in future. Muthi, you're a social entrepreneur, and our course is for social entrepreneurs. So we have lots of social entrepreneurs, and we also have social entrepreneurs who are looking at having entrepreneurs in their organization. So what are some of your lessons from your journey that you think that entrepreneurs can also adapt in their own journeys and can learn from?
I think I'll share 3 very quick lessons because of time. Number 1, if you are working particularly with a government stakeholder, find a champion. Find someone in the government who you can engage and who can be your advocate. Number 1. Number 2, especially if you're working within your organizations and you're a social entrepreneur, carry people with you. It's and this is something that I had to learn. Because I believe in innovation, I'm always like coming up with stuff. I leave people behind. So it's really important that you carry people with you, whether it's the people you work with, whether it's your line manager, have them be an advocate for the thing that you're bringing and demonstrate the value of that thing. Okay, so that's really important. And the last thing I wanted to say, which I wanted to say previously, but really quickly, when it comes to stakeholders, please remember this. If you forget everything I've said, unexpressed expectations are future resentments. If you don't allow your stakeholders If you don't allow your stakeholders to express their expectations about the shared value that you are claiming that you can all have, if you don't give them the space for that, trust me, that will be a future resentment you're going to have to deal with. Trust me, I've had a lot of frustration because of that. So I'll end with those.
I love it. Unexpected expectations or unexpressed expectations are future resentment. I'm going to definitely remember it. Great. Thank you, Muthi, for sharing so many wisdom, experiences, and lessons from your journey, from the work that you're doing. And we learned so much about partnerships. And with so many examples, I have learned so much. And I would definitely kind of, I'm going to remember some of the tips and recommendations that you have given in co-creation all the way along. And I'm sure our participants have enjoyed this conversation. Are there any last advice that you want to give to our participants who are watching us live?
No, I think what I've said is sufficient, particularly, carry people with you. I think carry people with you. That's really resonates with me, and I hope it resonates with you. And all the best as you innovate internally and become, hopefully you move from a social entrepreneur and join me becoming a social entrepreneur. See you whenever that happens.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being with us, Muthi, today. And we wish you all the best for your continued success in building partnerships and co-creating efforts, and have even more strong commitment to keep water as an accessible resource for all. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, and bye, everyone.
Thank you all for watching us live and participating in the discussion forum. And before we sign off, one more important reminder for next week. Next week on 21st of November, which is next Friday at 9 a.m. ET, we'll meet once again for another community session. Natalie and I are excited to have a chance to talk to all of you once again and to know about your future plans and how you're going to apply the lessons from the course in your journeys. And we also invite you to practice pitching of your entrepreneurial ideas and get live feedback from us and your peers. So mark your calendars to be with us and watch out the discussion forum for more information when the module opens next week. We look forward to seeing you there, and we'll continue to talk to you in the discussion forum. Bye for now and have a great day. Thank you, Muthi. Bye-bye.